Hello and welcome to this jazz guitar lesson. I'm Chris Whiteman and thanks for joining me. In today's lesson, we're going to look at building and reflexing a 2-5-1 single note pathway. And the purpose of this exercise is to create a foundation from which you can eventually build your own lines. I'm calling it a pathway instead of a lick because I think about them differently from a conceptual standpoint. A lick I think of as a line you plug in verbatim, and a pathway is more of a framework of how a line moves through changes. And ultimately, the pathway has more fluidity in it. It becomes a framework from which I can build a variety of lines, endless lines, So in the beginning stages, there's no difference in how I practice a lick or a pathway, right? We have to run it over and over until it's memorized and it's physically reflexed, so we don't have to think about it. It's just conceptually with the pathway, I know that I'm going to be manipulating it. That's the whole goal of the pathway, is to build a foundation from which I can build my own lines. So the concept of the pathway is much larger than a lick. So today's lesson is going to be part one of a two-part lesson. And what we're going to do today is we're going to just build the pathway, and then we're going to reflex it, and then we're going to take it through all 12 keys so that we have this foundation strong before we start manipulating it and building new lines out of it. So the first thing we need to do is construct a good pathway to navigate the 2-5-1 progression. And we're going to do this by outlining each chord as well as voice leading between the changes. And if we do this well, what happens is we create a high level of harmonic clarity. So even when you're playing single notes without any accompaniment, you'll be able to hear the changes in your lines. All right, so we're going to start in the key of C major. So the 2 chords are going to be D minor 7, 5 chord is G7, 1 chord is C major 7. And what I like to do is I like to orient myself on the neck by mapping out some shell voicings. So I'm going to play D minor 7 here at the 10th fret. My G7 is going to be here at the 10th fret as well, and then C major 7 shell voicing at the 8th fret. All right, so here's what our pathway is going to sound like over the 2-5-1. What I'm doing is I'm outlining the D minor 7, again, orienting to the shell voicing. I'm going to start on the 5th, and I'm going to come down the D minor 7 arpeggio. So A is my 5th, F is my flat 3rd, D is my root, and C is my flat 7. So those are the 4 notes of the D minor 7 arpeggio. The changes are moving 2 beats a piece, right? So we have 2 beats on D minor 7, 2 beats on G7, and then we're going to have a full measure resolution on C major 7. And I'm playing 8th notes, so I just need 4 8th notes on the D minor 7. Now I'm done with the D minor 7. Harmony's changing to G7. I'm on the flat 7. This is going to move down 1/2 step. And this is considered good voice leading. So the 7th of my 2 chord is moving to the 3rd of my 5. And so we have a 1/2 step resolution into that 3rd. So now I'm on the G7. I've played the 3rd, a very strong tone. And the 5 chord is typically the point at which we can add dissonance, increase the level of tension, because it's a cadence point. We're about to have a resolution back to the tonic. So to add some tension, I'm going to jump from the 3rd. I'm going to jump up to the flat 9, which is generally the first altered tension that we begin to explore on a 5 chord. So, and then I'm going to move down a 1/2 step, so to my G, and then down a whole step to the F, which is the flat 7 of the G chord. Right? So I have my third, I have my flat 9. This is the only tone that's not part of the arpeggio. So 3, flat 9, then I have my root and my flat 7. My flat 7 is now going to resolve to the third of the C major. So I move down a half step, right? So we've outlined each chord, and we have voice leading between the chords. Right? Now, what we want to do is we want to take this pattern and we want to move it through the cycle of fourths. And so each key center is going to move up a fourth. So our next key center is going to be F, right? And our 2 chords are going to be G minor 7. Our 5 chord is going to be C7. And our 1 chord is going to be F major 7, right? And so when I build my line, again, I want to orient to these shell voicings so that I know where I am in relation to the harmony. The 5 I'm going to play here. So the 5th of G minor is going to be D, and I play my 5th to my flat 3rd, which is B flat, to my root, G, to my flat 7, F. And those are my 4 eighth notes on the 2 chord. And then you hear it wanting to pull into that 3rd of the C7. There's my voice leading into the 3rd. Now I'm going to jump up to the flat 9 to add that color, that tension. That's going to be my D flat, right? And then to the root of C, to the flat 7 of C7, which is B flat, and then final resolution into the 3rd of F major 7. So that line looks like this. And those 2 patterns are just going to repeat as we work our way down the neck. And all of that's in the PDF. It's all tabbed out with the analysis of the notes against the chords. All right, so now I'm going to pull up a backing track and I'm going to play through all 12 keys. I'm going to do it fast and then I'm going to do it slow. And this would be a great daily exercise. You know, to reflex something, I think the neuroscience is pretty clear now. It's about 90 days of daily repetition for us to really solidify a new neural network. So, you know, if you put in 30 minutes a day for 3 months, you're going to see these pathways, and you're going to notice that your technique is reflexed. And so that's, generally the level of commitment to really begin to gain mastery over, any new concept, right, thanks so much for joining me. As I mentioned earlier, this is part one of a two-part series. So we're going to come back and we're going to look at ways to manipulate this pathway and begin the process of building your own lines out of this framework. See you next time.